My name is Willy Bolander. I study influence, persuasion, and leadership in selling and sales management, and I teach people how to sell. In this podcast, we'll talk to some of the world's top sales leaders and see what we can learn from them. Welcome to the Sales Lab. I am here today with Michael Payne. Michael is one of the owners of Winston Watercooler. Thank you for joining us today, Michael.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
And, nice place to start is often, a little bit about you. Where'd you come from? How'd you get to where you are now? Give us a little bit of the story.
All right. Well, don't want to bore everybody with a bunch of details here, but I grew up in South Texas and went to University of Texas San Antonio for schooling. While I was there, I joined a company by the name of Ferguson Enterprises during that time, and which happens to be in the plumbing wholesale distribution industry. Spent 24 years with Ferguson Enterprises and decided it was time. I've got an entrepreneurial spirit in me, and I wanted to do something that provided some equity. And so I did do that. I joined Winston Watercooler as an equity partner. And I've been doing that now for about 8 years.
This content is brought to you by the TSL Showdown. That's the Technical, Industrial, and Engineering Student Sales Showdown, hosted right here at Texas A&M University. We have over 200 engineering students taking sales classes every semester and a growing minor program in technical sales. These students are smart enough for STEM and savvy enough for sales, and the TIES Showdown allows them to demonstrate their selling skills in a role-play competition where industry partners, like you, serve as judges and provide them coaching feedback. If you're hiring for technical, industrial, or engineering sales roles anytime in the next couple of years, this is an event you can't miss. You can learn more at tx.ag/ties. That's tx.ag/TIES. Hope you can join us. Okay. And were you in a sales role at Ferguson previously?
So started, worked from the ground up, hands-on training, started in the warehouse, moved up to what we call in this industry, these are very common titles or positions, I would say, but moved up to counter sales. From counter sales, moved into inside sales, spent about 3 years doing that. And then I spent about 5 years in the customer-facing role, which we term outside sales, and then moved on to sales management. Did about 5 years of that, and then I moved on to a general manager role where I managed the Houston market. Did that for about 12 years, and then the last 3 years with Ferguson, I managed the state of Texas for them, and we had about 77 locations at that time that were managed and about 1,000 people.
Wow. So every couple of years, a bump up the ladder and a little new set of responsibilities, it sounds like.
Yes. I don't know if maybe they just decided that they wanted to just get me out of the role I was in and move me up, or if I would hope to, or like to think that I earned it, but it was a lot of hard work. And the good thing about this industry is, most companies in our industry are merit-based, and if you put forth the effort, certainly you get the reward.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about this industry. Winston Watercooler is also in this industry.
Yes. So Winston Watercooler is a fairly new company, started in 2000 by Zane and Jane Butter. Zane is third generation in the industry. His father started and built International Supply, which was sold to a company called Hughes Corporation back in before 2000. So after that transaction, Zane had transitioned over to Winston Watercooler, and from 2000 to date, taken the company from one location to now. Currently today, we're at 68 locations, and we're in 8 states across the southern part of the United States. Winston Watercooler is still a private company today, and the unique thing about Winston Watercooler that makes it so attractive is that we offer equity for those team members that are running a location. So as you progress in your career and get to the level that you're ready to run a business, we offer an equity position. So each one of those 68 locations we have all have an equity partner involved in that location.
That's awesome. And it is what types of items? Plumbing, I believe. What else?
So a little bit of HVAC included. Now, when I talk about HVAC, we talked a little bit about technical sales and what we do. That's where it does get pretty technical. So most people think of HVAC that keeps your house at a comfortable temperature, especially in the state of Texas in the summer. We need that. But there's also a different application. Excuse me. In these bigger buildings, for example, I'll use the baseball stadium downtown Houston. In order to cool a place of that size, they use what they call a chilled water system. That's our focus. So we do more of that commercial type application where it's a chilled water system, not as much. We do a little bit of the residential side of things for the home, but primarily it's the large applications.
So these are these machines that are outside of a shopping mall or a hotel or a school that you can kind of hear water flowing. It almost sounds like a waterfall sometimes, and they're about as big as a small building themselves at times.
Yeah, so that's the mechanical piece of it all. And those are your cooling towers, and they'll run water in what we call a closed loop system through a pump system, and that water runs, and it's got those chillers there that chill that water, and they get that water to a specific temperature. So as that water runs back through that steel pipe, it creates the steel pipe, takes the steel pipe to a certain temperature. Then there's air blown across that steel pipe, and as that air hits that steel pipe, it obviously cools the air, and that's the elementary way of understanding those applications with the mechanical systems.
Okay. And so you're selling these, I'm guessing, to commercial buildings, government buildings, facilities.
Yes, in the supply chain in our industry, we focus on the contractor that is doing the installation. So yes, so there's an excess of 3,000 contractors just in the city of Houston. And again, that there's a lot of smaller repair type companies, but we focus on all of them, from the small repair all the way to the largest commercial mechanical contractor. And so those contractors go out and work with the GCs, bid the job, and if they're awarded the job, then they look to somebody like ourselves in the wholesale business to provide them with all the products that they're going to need in order to build that project.
Okay. So the product ends up at these facilities, but that you're not calling on them. You're working specifically with the contractors. They're the ones that are deciding if it's your item that gets put there.
That's correct. Now, we will go to a job site once the job is started. We've been awarded the job. We want to make sure everything is running smoothly. At times, there are some problems that arise, and we want to make sure that we're there to handle anything that might need to be handled to make sure the contractor has confidence in our abilities.
For sure. And so what does the value proposition look like for a contractor? Why do they look at what you're doing and say, yeah, I'm going to go with Winston Watercooler as opposed to any competitor or doing something else?
I love that question. The way we're structured, and I had mentioned earlier that we offer an equity position to our team members that are running these locations. We also give them full autonomy to make decisions. So our biggest value is that we are very quick and nimble when it comes to decision making, and contractors really. I think that's a really important factor to the contractors, because when they call and they want an answer, they want it now. And I have found over my career that if we put the trust in our people, and we've got great people, which we definitely do, they can answer that question. We don't need 10 more approvals to before giving that answer. So I think that's one of the top value propositions we have to offer. Now we also, being privately held, we don't answer to anybody, so to speak. So we can our rules, our internal rules and regulations probably aren't as stringent as some others, and so that also gives us, again, that flexibility to act more like a, for lack of a better analogy, act more like a speedboat instead of a barge.
Okay. And so, what types of decisions would a contractor need you to make very quickly?
It would be things like, they want a they might want to change out a valve, and use a different type of valve on the job, and they want it out on the job site at 8 o'clock that evening. That's a simple one, but yeah, absolutely, we can do that. There are times where they've asked us to make sure we hit a crane time at 3 o'clock in the morning. There's a, you know, we are very quick to say, absolutely, we can do that. We know exactly what we need to do in order to take care of you, Mr. Customer. We'll have the material there at 3 o'clock so that y'all can use the crane and get it up to the top, get the material up to the top of the building. So that would be a good example.
Okay. And of course, our big focal question: how would you define technical sales?
Again, I love the question. It's we've always looked at, and through my career, the number one goal has always been to go and grow the relationship. Well, how do you grow a relationship? Well, you focus on gaining trust from that customer, from that contractor. And in this case, the key to getting that contractor to trust you, there's several different keys. One is the simple ones: respond. They want a response time, and that response time has got to be quick. That's simple. We know that. That customer wants to be provided job quotes on time, prior to their bid date. Those things are important. They want material at the job site at a specific time. But if you really want to gain trust with a customer, it's the knowledge you have. It's the knowledge you provide. It's the quick answers. It's the they trust you because you know the right answer when they call you. Again, none of us know everything. I'm still learning today after 30 years in this business. Um, but I know where to go to get the answer if it's something I don't know. And that's really what they want. So that's where the technical piece of it comes in. And it's knowing who to call. It's knowing what manufacturers to call. It's understanding the product and be able to answer questions about the product when they call you. That's what it's understanding the system. The chilled water system that we talked about earlier. It's understanding how that system works. It's making sure you're educating yourself, so that when you sit and talk to that contractor, they know that you appreciate what they do each and every day. You understand the technical side of that business. That's technical sales to me. And that ultimately leads to having that relationship and that trust with that contractor.
Absolutely. Well, sometimes when we are talking about trust, we try to kind of divide it into a couple different notions, right? I mean, one is, does the person care? Are they empathetic? Or are you of the type of character that I should trust you? But that's not enough. That's important. But the other piece is, are you competent? Are you capable? Are you're gonna, you want to help? You say you're going to help. You want to provide value. Do you know how? Do you have the experience? Do you have the expertise? If we run into some problems, are you going to be able to help me troubleshoot? If you can't do those things, then it doesn't really matter if I think you're like a really good, kind-hearted person, that you really have my best interest in mind. The world is full of good intentioned people who are capable, right? So that's no good. So what I'm hearing is, yeah, you have the knowledge and the ability to deliver on the value that you're promising, right?
Absolutely.
That's also what I heard when you're saying, yeah, you sell to the contractors, but then you show up to the job site after you've been awarded the business. Why? Well, because it's your thing on display, and you got to make sure that the value's delivered, right?
That's correct. Absolutely. And I'll add, Willie, it's part of the reason why it's critical to myself, and it's a top philosophy for us, or it's probably the wrong word. What's the word I want to use? It's a top requirement in our business that our people that are in the early career stages, that they have a training from the ground up. They have a hands-on training. So as we bring people into our company, it's everybody, including myself. When I started, you start in the warehouse and you spend time in the warehouse so that you can learn the processes. You can learn how the product flows in and out of our warehouse, so that you can start to learn the actual product and the features and benefits of those products. And today we have over 30,000 SKUs sitting in an individual warehouse. So it's critical that our people get that opportunity to be educated and trained properly, so that when they are and they do move up and they do have let's call it a customer facing role at that point, that they can speak intelligently with that customer about those features, about what the product, what it does, where it can help them. If you can take something to a contractor, this is the big thing about technical sales. This is probably one of the best answers I can give. If you can add value to a contractor by going in and offering them a different idea that will either help the job go quicker, save them some labor dollars, or even just provide a better system overall, you've you've captured that customer at that point in time. And so again, it's critical that we educate, train, and learn, so that we understand those systems and those products.
Okay. So you're training them from the ground up. Do they don't need to know anything when they come in, or is there any background that makes it very helpful?
If you went through school and you understand all the fittings and PVC pipe and valves in our industry, that would be amazing. There is none of us that come out of school knowing anything about this industry. The only thing we do understand is that there's a bathroom, and that's, we know what a bathroom's for. But outside of that, everything has to have water. And that was one of the things that attracted me to this business, is that, no matter what, every facility has to have water, whether it's residential, commercial. That's it. It's a basic need. So no, you don't have to know anything. You just have to be willing to work and have a good attitude, and uh, and really want to do well. As long as you have those qualities, then everything's going to be fine. We'll teach you the rest.
Okay. How can you tell? This is getting a little maybe off topic, but how can you tell if you're interviewing somebody or considering them for a role? How can you tell whether they have the ability to learn, whether they have that ethic to sit down there and pick out all these details?
I think look, the right answer to that question is I can't. I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, but the truth of it is, an
That's an
interview is
honest
one.
answer. That's
It's the most difficult thing. I have found over my career, when I really get to know somebody in their early career stages, it's usually somewhere around that 6 month mark. Once I've been able to be engaged with them and see how they do over that first 6 months, that's really the interview to me. And at that point, you can tell if they have that competitive nature, if they have that drive to be successful, that they have a work ethic, and a great attitude. I've always said, look, give me two things: give me great work ethic and great attitude, and the rest of it I can teach you, but I cannot teach you those two things. So it's pretty simple in my world.
absolutely. And then, are there any times in this business where the selling is not technical?
uh, yes, I think in I think it there's a part of our business that is very repetitive, very, very, very repetitive. And a good example would be building a house. Pretty much the material that goes into a house, for the most part, is the same. And there's not a lot of technique. It's more of, hey, we need this and we need it in bulk, because the contractor is going to do 2,000 homes in Houston this year, and they just want it over and over and over again, the same thing. And so it loses a little bit of that technical feel to it. That would be really the only time that I would say it's not as technical.
Okay. Um, good. And you mentioned work ethic. You mentioned the ability to learn, the attitude. Uh, I'm going to ask a similar question. I'm going to try to rephrase it. We'll see what this does. But if I'm a young person trying to get hired into Winston Watercooler, what can I do to signal, or what can I emphasize about my background or education or experience that would make you think, hey, that this person has those ingredients?
Well, the first thing is how do they present themselves? That's number one. I think it's important to know, and I see this a lot in today's world. If somebody takes the time to have the right attire on, to be presentable when they walk in, that's the first step. So that's number one. Number two is, I would say, I always love to ask the question, are you competitive? And I think if somebody wants to be in a sales role, sales is a very competitive uh, type role, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. So having that competitive nature and making sure they tell the person who's interviewing them, if they make sure they let them know that they are competitive, they want to do well, that's a good way. Because again, we're not looking for technical knowledge. We're looking for that type of person. And it typically is a competitive, a drive to succeed type person. That's the key to the hiring process for us. I hope
Okay.
that helps. It's
Yeah.
it's really ambiguous when, when you start talking about the interview process.
No, I mean, I think there's a very, we see a lot of companies come on campus for one career fair or one event or another, and they every company has their core values, but often they're these very abstract, philosophical notions. Integrity. Okay, so I'm looking at two resumes. Which one of these is
Yeah, how do you
has
know?
integrity? Is it both of them? I don't know. Not none of them. All half. I don't. Uh, but yeah, it's kind of like, yeah. What it comes down to is that sort of gut feeling, and yeah, something we can't quite put our finger on convinces us that this person is viable, right? This person could do well in our context.
Yeah, it kind of makes me chuckle because yeah, I those are the integrity and all that kind of stuff. That's you learn that over time. What do they do when you're not looking? Those kinds of things. And uh, but I'll add one other thing. It's also how when I've seen this a few times, and this is probably a good example of what not to do, I guess. I've seen some people come in and it's just very stoic, very no personality, and no, it just I'm not looking for a cheerleader to come in and start pom poms out and jumping all around, but you want something that where it's a good engaged conversation where there's a little bit of, for lack of a better word, pizzazz to the conversation. Let's talk. So,
Yeah. Well, I think certainly young people, maybe not so young people as well, fall into this pit. But it's, okay, I got to be professional. I gotta button up. I gotta show that I'm disciplined and yeah. But that doesn't necessarily mean rigid. Very successful people say, "Hey, dude," and fist bump each other. When they see each other in the hallway or at the office or at the airport or whatever. It doesn't. Professionalism doesn't translate to rigidity or stiffness, right? Uh,
exactly.
but yeah, I mean, we certainly have some students that are very good at that, and some students that are maybe a little too good at that. And you say, well, okay, maybe button your shirt up a little bit more than that, and don't call everybody dude and bro, and yeah, it's you got to dial it in a bit, I guess.
Yeah, it's being professional but having fun, and again, sales are all about reading your audience, and if you th- and being able to have a good, solid conversation with them. Right? If you're sitting and talking to a customer, you've got to be able to have a conversation and go in any direction the customer wants to go, and you have to know that audience. Well, it's kind of the same thing in an interview. You kind of want to be able to get an idea of who you're talking to, and then have fun with it. Have a conversation with them. We all, look. I don't care if you own a business and how big that business is or who you are. Everybody has a hobby. Everybody has something they enjoy doing. And if you can find that, if you can get to that point and have a conversation with them, then yeah, and I would highly recommend to students that are coming out of college to try to do that. Try to have a conversation, because that's what we're all looking for, is somebody that can break into a conversation that it's not, like you said, either rigid or give the interviewer the idea that maybe they don't want to be there. You want somebody that is kind of trying to navigate through and get to know us as well as interviewers. I mean, it's a two-way street, and that's a big plus for me. When somebody can do that as we're talking, that's huge.
Perfect. I wonder if you think about your best day in sales, if you could tell us about that day. The day that you just felt like, oh, I was crafted for this. This is exactly what I want to be doing. This feels right. I know I'm in the right place. I think you've had a day like that, maybe a couple days like that.
I have. Now, this might be shocking. It was not the largest dollar volume day. It wasn't anything like that. I just will never forget this. I had a contractor call me one day and asked me what I was doing, and I told him what I was doing, and he said, "Hey, is there any way you can get over to my office? I need to talk to you." And I said, "Sure, love to be there." So I head over to his office and sit down with him, and we're having a conversation. And he says, "Hey, my wife and I would like to invite you and your wife to go on a special trip with us this year. And look, it's on us. We're paying, blah, blah, blah. We've got everything handled. Just need a yes from you." That, earlier in my career and where I was in my career, for that to happen meant that I had made an impression. And him and I to this day are still really good friends. And it's not only business, but it's a friendship. And that's when I knew that, this is something that I enjoy and I like. The one nice thing about this industry is there are a lot of great people, and you end up developing relationships that end up being lifelong. And it's something that I certainly cherish. And that was definitely the turning point for me in the sales arena.
That's awesome. So then, of course, I have to ask the opposite question, right? Can you tell us about your worst day in sales, the day that just left you thinking, "Man, I'm in the wrong place. I'm not. This isn't for me"?
That's very easy. None of us are perfect. I made a major mistake on a massive project in the Houston area, and the owner of this project wanted all of their toilets and all of their lavatories in the bathroom. They wanted them without a logo. So walk into a bathroom, most fixtures that you see in a bathroom, whether it's a urinal or whatever, you're going to see a logo on there of whatever manufacturer made that. Now, in special cases, these manufacturers will provide those products without the logo on it. So this case, it happened to be, and there was approximately, on this one project, there was over 2,000 commodes on this on this project. And I missed the no label. Got all the way through. Everything was quoted. The toilets had been installed, and when they were doing the walkthrough to approve the job, they realized that we had to rip. So we had to rip out every single commode. I had to work through a whole weekend, and we personally ripped out all 2,000 commodes and put new ones in. And at that point, that's a costly mistake. And man, I wasn't sure if I was going to keep my job, and I certainly wasn't sure I was cut out to do this business, do what I'm doing today. But what I've learned over the years is it makes me much more empathetic to helping people grow in their careers and understanding, because look, we all make mistakes. Unfortunately, that was a big one. And that one will stick with me for the rest of my life, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I say this with some frequency that, people that haven't had bad days, I don't understand people that haven't had bad days. Our students who are trying to learn to this and are, doing some pieces of it well and some pieces not so well, and getting lots of feedback along the way. They don't understand somebody who doesn't have a bad day, and there's a big disconnect when our students go and work anywhere, and they're working for somebody that's been there for 10, 20, 30 years, that has like a book of business. They've got really great clients. They've got people that they can call on and will buy, on the spot, because they've built the relationship up to that point. And they, will go on ride-alongs with these more senior people, and they'll try to learn from them. And oftentimes what they take away is, oh, this person has some gift that I don't have. When I call, I get hung up on. When I visit, nobody wants to talk to me. And they don't realize, or maybe they realize it if they sit down and think about it, but they don't see all the hardship that person went through, 30 years prior. That, yeah, no, they got hung up on. They went through all that too. It's just they built it up and established things so that they run a lot smoother. But it can cause some serious doubts in early career sales professionals to go, man, I don't know. They're just smooth. The person, goes along with what they say, with almost no effort. And I'm over here like beating my head against the wall, just begging somebody to buy from me, and I can't get it done. And it's like, yeah, sometimes, I don't know, you want to remind your early career people that, yeah, I took some beatings too. It's okay.
Yeah,
It happens.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's not every day's perfect, but, again, in the cliche go, the day you get to make a choice when you get up in the morning. And unfortunately, sometimes, I try to make the choice every day to be in a great mood and go enjoy what I do. But yeah, sometimes it can be tough, and that's the real world. That's the way it works. But I can't be any different. Not to, I know you're asking the questions today, Willie, but it can't be any different in your world and in the things, the challenges that you face. I would assume that you have good days and bad days. I mean, that's real world.
For sure. Well, and I will often try to pick on the students on this idea of, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Saying, I love what I do, but some days are just bad days, or mundane days. Mundane days feel sometimes like more work than bad days. Just that, oh, I got to do paperwork. Nobody likes doing paperwork. You can love your job and hate paperwork. Probably everybody. We say, okay, you're a professional athlete. You love making money. You love driving nice cars. You love dating models. Yeah, it's great. Do you love doing wind sprints? Because I don't know anybody who loves doing wind sprints.
Yep.
While some guy 30 years older than you is yelling at you, telling you you're not fast enough when that guy can't run as fast. Like, yeah, it's probably going to feel like work. If it doesn't feel like work, you might want to check and make sure they're still cutting you a paycheck, because yeah, it is work. It's supposed to feel like work.
Yep.
So
I
what did you
100% agree with
do right after that? What did the next days and weeks and months look like after that? How did you psych yourself up? How did you pivot following that bad day?
Look, and we try to create the same environment and atmosphere for our people today, but it's all the people around you. When you go you go find your career, and you're in your career. In it, it in some cases, I know that this works. I've been fortunate to work around people that have become, again, my friends. They're another cliche word that we all use, but they're family. That's really what it becomes inside those businesses, and we go through the good and the bad together. And if you don't have that, then yeah, I probably would beat myself up. I mean, I'm my biggest critic. I think most of us that are competitive and want to do well, we get really frustrated with ourselves when we make mistakes. And but when you have people around you picking you back up, and it really makes that transition through that type of stuff much easier to get through. And yeah, that one, like, I'm still talking about it today. So obviously it's been on my mind and that was almost 20 years ago. So, you know, yeah, those next few days were hard. The next few couple weeks were hard. I felt terrible. Felt like I cost a lot of people a lot of money and had made a pretty massive mistake. But the company stuck by me, and all my friends were all still there. Nobody looked at me like like I was a unicorn. Didn't look at me any differently. They all treated me the same. So we got through it together, I would say.
Well, and that's back to this competitive topic, that having bad days goes hand in hand with being competitive as well. I've had in the past conversations with students who say, "Yeah, I'm going to go into sales. I'm going to kill it because I'm really competitive." I say, "Well, that's awesome. So what are you going to do when you don't kill it? What are you going to do when you get told no? What are you going to do when you've put all of your energy and all of your emotion into finishing at the top of the sales ranking for the year or the quarter or whatever, and you don't?" And I'm always kind of sickly entertained when they say, "No, you don't understand. Like, I'm really competitive, like I'll really go for it." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not how numbers work, you know." Two people in the World Series, two people in the Super Bowl, two teams, only one of them gets to win. And it might be because one of the teams like really messed up strategically or whatever, but sometimes it's because sometimes they did everything right. Sometimes they play the optimal game and they still don't get to win because only one team gets to win. It's not a learning moment necessarily. Even it's just, hey, you're second place. That's it. And I've had some students in deep denial about this. No, you don't understand. I'm like, man, like, what have you been like doing karate with 7-year-olds or something? Like you're in the wrong room. If you're playing the game right, you're going to lose sometimes. You shouldn't be the best person at the company, especially not when you're 22. Maybe when you're a few years in and once you've mastered the game. But no, you probably need to be prepared to be competitive. Don't lose that. Keep that going. But also know that means some days you're gonna get roughed up a bit. So
Yeah, great point. We talk about these things in our business, and one of the things I like to always tell the early career folks is, look, expectations and how you set your expectations is really going to drive everything and how you handle the wins and the losses. Because if you do set your expectation to be making a specific amount of money or be in a specific role or be number one in sales in year two, you're with the company, I'm going to let you know that you're going to be deeply disappointed. Um, and so let's not do that. Let's be real. Let's celebrate the wins. Let's work through the losses together. But let's make sure we set realistic expectations. If you want to get upset with yourself, I'd rather you get upset with yourself because you set a realistic expectation you didn't get there. We'll still work through it together. But I don't want you setting unrealistic expectations and then being all upset because you didn't get there. That doesn't make any sense to me. So it's really trying to educate and work through those things together in that process.
awesome. Well, I'm keeping an eye on the time here. I know we're getting low on available time, but are there any key lessons, anything you've learned on your journey that you think, hey, an early career person would really have a jump start on their success if they just knew this thing or these couple of things?
Willie, I don't have anything earth shattering. I have really, through my whole career, tried to keep it simple. And I think a lot of times we tend to complicate things. I see it a lot in the business world, overcomplicating things, and I guess my message would be try to keep it simple. I go back to the two things that I feel like I've never ever put it this way. I've never ever seen somebody not be successful if they have the right attitude and the right work ethic. I go back to that, and again, I wish I had something earth shattering to share for these folks, because I know what it was like. I remember, and I remember the anxieties, and I remember how you just wanted everybody to see that you were good, and looking back, I think the two most important ingredients were just hard work, good solid work ethic, and a good solid attitude would take you a long way. Uh, and those things do come out in an interview. Those things do come out when you're talking to somebody. You can feel it. It's You said it earlier, that gut feeling. After 30 years, I still make some mistakes, but I feel like my gut leads me in the right direction most of the time. And so yeah, again, I wish I had the magical answer, but there's really not a magical answer. It's
Well, so
we all
simplicity
face.
is a pretty great answer. I mean, it is a constant temptation to try to overcomplicate things. If I just had this degree, if I just had, this experience, if I just had an internship at a certain level of a company, and well, those all might be fine, but you might be complicating it. Get out
Yeah.
there and throw some elbows.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, we ended up with some complicated issues at times in our business. Let's not complicate ourselves and those things. Let's go in and learn how to talk to somebody, work through a problem together, and then you know what? What's nice is when we do get in those really complicated situations that there's a major issue going on, we can all work together as a team, and that's how we learn and we get better. But again, man, if I could grab some of those students and just say, hey, look, take a deep breath coming out, relax, um, and just remember these two things. If you're a competitive person and come into the business world with the right work ethic, with the right work ethic and the right attitude, that would be my message. Simplify it to that, and you're going to be just fine. I can promise that.
That's awesome. Great. Well, I appreciate your time again. Thank you for joining us on this. And I think this is going to be great to get in front of the students and anybody else that's listening. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you guys on campus later in the semester.
Yeah, Willie, thank you for having me. And hey, great conversation. First time you and I get to talk together, and
It's good. Yeah.
great conversation. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to coming out and doing the campus tour with you.
That's it for this interview. I hope you got something valuable out of it. Of course, if you did, be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast on whatever app you use to listen. Also, share this with your colleagues and friends, and let's continue to have a deeper discussion on all things related to selling and sales leadership. See you next time in the Sales Lab.